Hey everybody, my name is Mattatari, and today we're going to be taking a look at 5 rare monster cards in Master Duel that I truly think are super underrated right now. As we all know, rare gems are a dime a dozen, so they are very easily craftable, but also you can pick all 5 of these cards up in legacy packs. So if you want to try your RNG, you might as well use them for something. You never know when you're going to pull one of these cards, and you never know if one of these cards would fit in well with your deck if you've been sleeping on them. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at 5 underrated rare monsters. Starting off at number 5 is a card that needs absolutely no introduction. We all know this card, Time Wizard. One of the staple OG Yu-Gi-Oh cards. If you've ever watched the show back in the day, if you ever played the game in the early 2000s, you know exactly what this card does. Once per turn, you can toss a coin and call it. If you call it correctly, all monsters that your opponent controls are instantly destroyed. But if you call it wrong, all the monsters that you control are destroyed, and you take damage equal to half of the total attack of those monsters. It is the ultimate gamble. This is why it is so polarizing. If you really feel like you're going to be lucky and you have the heart of the cards on your side and you call this correctly, it can completely turn the tides of a duel. If you're running like a troll deck, it's a spellcaster, so you can throw it in with pretty much anything that has that meshes well with spellcasters. And best case scenario, if it goes your way, it's a free Regeki. And I mean, honestly, who doesn't want a free Regeki? Now, to my knowledge, Time Wizard doesn't see too much play. I think I've only ran into a handful of them on the ranked duel ladder, but I definitely feel like more people should be using this card, especially with spellcaster decks. At number 4, we have Strong Wind Dragon, a level 6 dragon monster that requires one monster to be tributed for it to be summoned. So right off the bat, this card cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster that has the same attack. Not necessarily the greatest effect in the game, but with how many 2400 attack monsters you see, I think I don't know if there's a statistic out there to prove like what the most median attack amount is, but I feel like 2400 has to be a pretty common amount that you see here. Aside from that, if this card is tribute summoned by tributing a dragon type monster, it gains attack equal to half of the original attack of the tributed monster. Where I see this being the most optimal and can give you a little bit more of an edge here would be running like a Blue Eyes deck or any deck that runs or utilizes the White Stone of Ancients or White Stone of Legend cards. Because if you don't have anything to discard those cards, but you need a Blue Eyes on the field, you can just pop one of those babies down, tribute it, get it to the graveyard to get its effect, and then half of that attack is just going to give you a little bit more of an edge. I think like 2600, 2700 maybe. Not only is it kind of like a workaround for discarding and getting your card into the graveyard for that effect, but you get an extra beefed up dragon on the field, which who doesn't need that? Building off that, if this card attacks a monster in defense position, it inflicts piercing damage. And you don't see too many of those cards in Blue Eyes setups, especially like at lower levels. So that could be a good way to get a little bit more chip damage in on your opponent's life points. I feel like Strong Wind Dragon is super underutilized, and I hope to see him a little bit more in play. At number 3, we have Dupe Frog. And before the memes start rolling in, let me explain. So coming in at a level 2 monster, it has 2000 attack. In the early stages of battle, that is a huge number, especially if your opponent's feeling lucky and tries to pop a face down defense position monster. From there, when it's on the field, it prevents other monsters from attacking any of your other monsters on the field. So basically only the Dupe Frog can be targeted. And even if you're not running like a frog deck, frogs fit in so many different deck formats that I feel like it could just synergize on so many levels, especially with like decks that empower aqua monsters. You know, you get some Abyss Dweller action in there. It could be a solid setup for stalling too, especially with that high defense. And with its flexibility and able to mesh well with other decks, Dupe Frog definitely is super underrated. At number 2, we have Spirit Reaper, and for those of you who remember the GOAT period, Spirit Reaper was a phenomenal card coming off the trail of the GOAT era. Starting off, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. It has to be targeted by an effect that would pop a card, so even if it's on the field, it cannot be destroyed. If you put that thing in defense position, it is the ultimate stall card. So say you put this thing in face-up defense position on the field, no matter how many times your opponent swings at it, it is not going to die. You are not going to take battle damage, unless they pierce, of course, until this card is targeted by like a Regeki or a card effects that would remove a card from play, put it to the graveyard, banish it, etc. And that's not all. If you're in a good position, say if you wipe everybody from your opponent's side of the field, you can put this thing in attack position and attack your opponent directly. While it only has 300 attack points, which really doesn't do much in terms of the grand scheme of the battle, for every attack that you put on your opponent directly, you force them to discard one random card from their hand, which is a huge disrupt factor, especially with combo setups, or maybe you can knock out a hand trap. There's just the certain element of cheese and luck and RNG that makes YuGiOh, and I love that about this card. I feel like slipping this into like an Exodia deck, just like a wild card Exodia deck, or like side decking this into just a stall deck would just make so many people angry, but I haven't seen it at all in Master Duel, and I'm hoping to run into it somewhere on the rank ladder. I hope this card gets a second life. And coming in my opinion, is one of the most underrated rare cards in the game that I never see utilized is Spell Striker. Despite its name, Spell Striker is a level 3 warrior monster with 600 attack, 200 defense. It can be special summoned out of your hand by banishing one spell card that you have currently in your graveyard. So if you pop a fusion, if you pop, you know, Regeki, Called by the Grave, any of those quick spells that just go straight to your graveyard, you can banish one of those that's not going to see use again. When it's on the field, this card can only attack your opponent directly. It cannot attack other monsters. It can only attack your opponent's life points directly, which at 600 attack does not sound like much, but I cannot tell you how many duels that I've been in that have been decided by only a few hundred life points. With a special summon requirement as free as Spell Strikers, that could have totally given me the edge in these duels. And there are so many warrior decks out there that do not utilize this card, and I just don't understand it. Lastly, this card does not take battle damage from attacks, so even if somebody pops it, you're not going to take any damage at all. It's safe to put it on the field. It's essentially insurance. If you want to get a quick pop or a quick hit at your opponent's life points, put it on the field. Don't even worry about taking battle damage. You can get hit by like a Chaos Max, lose 3,400 damage. That is not going to hit your life points at all. This card takes absolutely zero battle damage. And I mean, I'm sure that there are plenty of reasons that this card doesn't get mixed in, but I feel like there's got to be some optimization here. I feel like when this card is in the right hands, in the right deck, it's going to be devastating. Not like a OTK devastation, but more just like a poison in Pokemon kind of devastation. And if you really want to get cheesy, you can pop this thing with the power of the Guardian, so every time it gets targeted or attacks, it just gains more and more attack. And those are 5 of the most underrated rare cards in the game, in my opinion, that I do not see utilized nearly enough as they should be. And again, you can pull all of these cards from the legacy packs. I know the legacy packs are kind of a meme, and since they give you so many legacy tickets for these packs, you could almost guarantee that you're going to draw into at least one of them with the amount of rare cards in here and how many tickets you get for free pulls. But let me know down in the comments if you know anything about these cards, if you use any of these cards, if you will be using these cards, or if you have any requests for any other cards you'd like me to take a little bit more of an in-depth look in, just let me know. I'm more than happy to look at these cards, analyze these cards, but enough rambling. My name is Matt. I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Thank you for watching. Peace.